Hey guys, how you doing? In this video series, we're going to be looking at programming for beginners. So introductory to like programming concepts and ideas. And in this video in particular, we're going to be looking at variables, data types, and comments in Python. So, as you can see on my screen, I have two windows. To explain it, in this window is where all the code will be, where I write my code. And in this window here is called the shell, where when I run my code, the output will pop out onto this window here, which is the shell. Together, these two windows, this program, which is called Python idle, is called a IDE, an integrated development environment. You don't have to really worry about that term. You just need to think about this is the editor. This is the editor where the code will run, and above me is the shell where all the code will be outputted. So let's just jump right into it. So the first two lines here, so this text in red up here is comments. So basically what that means is the computer will not, when we run our program, these lines will be ignored completely. They're only for us as programmers to help us understand or leave a note for the code. So they're just comments, and in Python, you always start for a comment, you start the line with a hash. So hash, hash, hash. What I'll also say is when we think about a program, it's from top to bottom. Similar to like how we read a book. Yeah, it starts from the top, we read left to right. So whatever's at the top will be executed, and then it goes sequentially to the bottom, to the very bottom right here. So we start at the top. These are our comments, they're ignored. It's just a comment that I put in, variables and data types, and this is a comment. Always start with a hash to start your comment. And right here we've got example 1. So example 1 is we have a variable, and what we're doing is we're giving the variable a value, and this value happens to be 3. So this line reads as a equals 3. So a is our variable, and we give it by saying equals a value of 3. So you might be wondering, like, so what is a variable exactly? Variables are simply something that varies. In this case it's a name we give to something that will change. We want to store something to change it later, and in this case we call it a. So a we set to 3, but we could change it to something else later, which I'll show you. So a equals 3. So you might also notice that 3 is called it's a whole number. So what we say is the data type a. The data type of a is a whole number, but in programming we call that an integer. So a in this case is an integer, which is a whole number. So a equals 3. Alright, so yeah, so a equals 3 and a is an integer. So example 2, b equals 3.1. So b is another variable it's a variable called b, and we make it equal 3.1. But as you can see, this is not a whole number. It is it has a decimal point. So in this case, b is not an integer. It is a floating point or a real number. In programming, we call it a float. So the other thing is, while I'm talking to you about this, you might be thinking, hold on a second, like how you're saying that a is an integer and b is a floating point, but like how does the computer know which is which? Well, in Python at least, it automatically, based on what you assign it to, what value you assign it, Python will automatically know which data type the variable is. It'll just figure it out itself. In other programming languages, you have to specifically write that something is an integer and something is a floating point or whatever. But in this case, you don't have to worry about that. Python will figure it out for you. We call that a weakly typed programming language. So, example 3. So the other data type is this. So C equals the text hello world, and notice the quotes. So C is text, and in programming speak we call it a string. But Lachlan, why is it called a string? What a strange name to call something. So the logic behind why it's called a string is because, what I understand is, so in other languages, there's something called a character, which is simply a single letter. Or, yeah, it's a single letter. Or it's like it could be a number as well, but it's basically like a single character, and it could be I think it's alphanumeric, or it might even be ASCII, an ASCII character. I'm not quite sure, but anyway, it was called a character, and then when you had multiple characters, it's like they're strung together, so it's called a string. I believe that's why it's called a string. But anyway, all you need to know is this text is called a string. So C equals a string. Example 4. D equals true. So you might be thinking, shouldn't this be a string because it's text? Well, no, because we don't have the quotations. And as you can see here, it's actually the text is turned orange. So basically, when you see this, it's the your editor telling you that this is a special word. So there's things called there's these special words that we need that Python needs that you can't use as variable names. They're called reserved words, and true happens to be one of them. And the reason true is one of these special words is because it's needed for this. It's a type of data. So it's like we have whole numbers, we have floating points, we have a string, and true is another data. It's a type of data, and this type of data is called a Boolean. So Boolean only comes in 2 flavors, if you will, true or false, as you could probably imagine. And both true and false are special words that cannot be used anywhere else. So, so that's a lot already. So now, so we've done all these variables, and now I'm going to throw one more thing at you for today's video. And we have all these lines that say print. So I'm not going to explain how these operate just yet because it's fairly involved. Just know that these lines simply prints out to that shell that I mentioned earlier in the video. So all that anything that's in here, the statement print allows us to print out stuff to this shell right over here, right above me. So that's all you need to worry about for now. So basically what's going to happen is it says we're going to print out A, the text A is, and then we're going to print out A, the variable A, or whatever we stored at A. And then we're going to do the same for all the variables. And then what we're going to do, because we're quite slick, is that we're going to print out also the types using this other word called type, which prints out the data type of those variables. And we put in what variable we want in these brackets right here. So it's all in brackets, as you can see. So you can already see the output here, but if I just run F5, it'll run it again, and see it says A is 3, and we have it here. A is whatever A was. A is 3. And as we can see up here, we assign A equals 3 here. We go here, B is, what is it? B is 3.1. C is C, so C was hello world. So as you can see here, I'm able to output what is in these variables using this print statement. And then D is true. And then down here, as you can see here, A's data type is class int, which is integer. B's data type is class float, which is a floating point. C's data type is class str, which is just because we're lazy as programmers, so we don't say the full thing, but it's a string, so we just say str. And then class data type, D's data type is a bool, because it was true or false. So bool, which is just boolean. As I said, we're kind of lazy as programmers, so we just have these shorthands, you know. Yeah, so that's pretty much data types and variables. So guys, coming back to this, so in this final example, so with programming we can also do basic arithmetic, as you can see here. So x equals 4, y equals 3, y equals the x plus 4.3. So it's just basic arithmetic. We can add in there. So take a stab what you think, and then I just print out whatever the value of y is. So take a stab what you think. Don't ignore the shell there, which may have the answer. But if you guessed 8.3, then you are correct. So basically it's 4, x equals 4, y equals 3, y equals whatever x is, plus 4.3. We know that x was 4, so the final output is 8.3. So notice how when I say y equals 3 and then I say y equals x plus 4.3, we basically override whatever value was in y before. So y was 3, but when we say equals again, we ignore what was ever in there. Now if I said y equals y plus x plus 4.3, then whatever was in y is preserved. So it's like, so think about, to tell me what you think this will output now. You can pause the video if you want, but I'm going to break the suspense by just running the code. Save that. So it's 11.3 because it's 4. It's 3 plus 4, which is 7, plus 4.3, which is 11.3. So we can actually use what was ever in y next, but we don't have to, right? We can just override y if we want. So that's just a basic like in-action view of how variables can change and how we can modify them, and then also how we can perform some basic like math operation, which is plus. It doesn't have to be plus, it could be divide, it could be so arithmetic is, you have plus, you have minus, division is like the slash, and then multiplication is a star. So a star is multiplication. So in this case, y equals x times 4.3. So it's 4 times 4.3, which should be, oh no, quick math. 4 times, so 17.2, which is correct. Oh man, I shouldn't have put a decimal in there. It makes it hard for me. So if I like did that divide, I can't do divide. 4 divided by 4.3. It's going to be like 1 point something. No, whoops, 0.93. Oh, yeah, it's like 4 over 4.3. What am I saying? A little less than 1. So yeah, you can do divide, you can do like times, all those arithmetic operations. So, alright guys, that wraps it up for this video. Yeah, I'll do more of these. So, you know, like, comment, subscribe. And all my details are below. If you're interested in my tutoring, you can look down in the links down below. Yeah, thanks for joining in. See ya.